Can handsome looks overcome the manipulative and cunning personality of a person bent on destroying a nation with reckless plans and a pretty smile? We will find that out today, because we'll discuss a man full of charm and grace who could easily be the equivalent to a Disney prince, but hypocrisy is his political hallmark. Can anyone guess who it is? If you didn't get it, let me throw another hint. He's a far cry from what we can call an authentic leader, because of the mess he's created with the Canadian government and administration. Yes, we're talking about Justin Trudeau, the current Prime Minister of Canada, who has quite the reputation in international media because of his chiseled face and fashion sense. Still, he's pretty notorious due to his poor reforms and ill management in the world of economy and politics. Thanks to his clever use of social media, he was dubbed the first Prime Minister of the Instagram age. But after 4 years in power, cracks in his image have started to show. In the complex scenarios of politics, Trudeau's administration has yet to be without its share of critics. Let's unravel the layers of concerns voiced by those who question, people like you and me, the leadership traits of Mr. Trudeau from 2015 till today. Before the 2015 federal election, Conservative campaign ads repeatedly argued that Justin Trudeau was just not ready to be the Prime Minister of a G7 economy. Not everyone agreed with such a claim, as the Liberals won a majority government. But if anybody who did think Trudeau was ready back then surveys the economic landscape over the past 8 years, they'll see the problem. One statistic perhaps best illustrates this. From the third quarter of 2015 through the second quarter of 2023, authentic gross domestic product per capita increased by 12.5% in the United States, versus only 1.6% in Canada. Put another way, if Canada's economy had tracked with the United States since Trudeau took office, national income per Canadian would be 11% higher than it is currently. That's a harsh but bitter truth. Also, if you see the budget spending by Trudeau's government, you'll know the cause of inflation that people in Canada face. A temporary spike was observed during COVID-19, but federal spending under the Liberals has not returned to previous levels. It's still $80 billion to $90 billion a year higher than pre-pandemic benchmarks. It is high time, people, that those of you who still support the federal government and think that all the colourful promises made to you will come true, realise one thing. Keep your eye on government spending. Nobel Prize laureate economist Milton Friedman warned that government spending can only be supported in 3 ways: taxes, debt, or inflation. Unfortunately, Canadians are now experiencing all 3 in excessive amounts. Other than that, there have been numerous cases of economic corruption and ethical misconduct done by Mr. Trudeau's government, which have been headlines for quite some time. So, let's have a look. 1. SNC-Lavalin Scandal 2019. So, the allegation was that Trudeau and his government were accused of interfering in a legal case involving SNC-Lavalin, a major engineering company. Later, the company faced corruption and fraud charges, and there were claims that Trudeau and his aides pressured Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould to intervene for political reasons. As a result, this controversy raised concerns about the judicial system's independence and ethical standards within the government. Another very unethical highlight associated with Justin Trudeau during COVID season was the We Charity controversy of 2020. If some of you aren't aware, what happened was that Trudeau faced criticism for his government's involvement with the We Charity, a non-profit organisation in the administration of student volunteer grants. Trudeau's family had ties to the charity, and accusations arose that there was a conflict of interest in awarding the contract to We Charity. The controversy led to investigations, and Trudeau apologised, acknowledging mistakes in not recusing himself from discussions related to the contract. A cliché move. When you see no escape, say, "Oh, you're so sorry." But the story doesn't end here. And there is more to Justin Trudeau's diplomacy in the facade of keeping international ties. In the recent development of India-Canada relations, Mr. Prime Minister has sparked controversy with his remarks, which breached political decorum and indicated his immature leadership style. He stated that Indian agents made the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian land, and according to him, there are numerous reasons to believe that. Still, in contrast, no solid evidence has been put forth. When asked by a reporter to characterise how extensive and solid the evidence was, Mr. Trudeau didn't answer directly. Still, he said that Canada had a rigorous and independent justice system, and we allow those justice processes to unfold themselves with the utmost integrity. Also, many developed countries are in tow with Canada due to his politically unstable actions. Critics argue for consistency and a clear strategy, especially with influential players like China and Germany, a diplomatic dance that demands precision. When Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently addressed the European Union Parliament, he received an angry backlash from some elected members who accused him of responding to the recent anti-vaccine mandate convoy protest like a dictator. The public rebukes by a handful of far-right populist and anti-vaccine members of the European Parliament claiming Trudeau violated civil rights in response to the protest that occupied Ottawa for almost a month went viral on social media. Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace to any democracy, said German MEP Christine Anderson, the political spokesperson for the ID parliamentary group in the European Parliament. Moreover, in 2022, Canada referred to China as disruptive in its official Indo-Pacific strategy document. He also stated that Chinese President Xi Jinping isn't running a democracy. They're still ruling an authoritarian state. The Chinese government, in turn, sees Canada's position as reflective of growing anti-China sentiment and anxiety regarding the country's ascendancy to superpower status. This is absurdly childish for a leader to act this way, no matter his stance. And that is why the G20 summit could have been more fruitful for Trudeau. Now, let's highlight some of the hollow promises of Trudeau's administration. 1. Trudeau's government legalised marijuana, but rebuffed a call to expunge the records of those convicted of simple possession, even though prosecutions had disproportionately targeted people with low incomes and Canadians of colour. 2. Trudeau appointed a gender-balanced cabinet, but refused to reform the country's electoral system, which would have paved the way for more female lawmakers. 3. He promised a total renewal of Canada's relationship with Indigenous communities, but still, his government has done little to address the mould-ridden housing and lack of clean drinking water that has left many Indigenous communities living in Haiti at minus 40 degrees centigrade, as a politician from the New Democratic Party has put it. 4. After vowing to prioritise the fight against climate change and criticising Saudi Arabia's treatment of human rights advocates, Trudeau's government bought a 4.5 billion Canadian dollars, that's 2.8 billion UK pounds pipeline to better transport Alberta's landlocked bitumen to international markets, and signed off on the sale of more than 900 armoured vehicles to Riyadh. 5. After much of the international hype over its welcoming stance on refugees had died down, the government quietly introduced legislation this April that makes it harder for some migrants to seek asylum. Despite Trudeau selling himself as an open and transparent leader, several sources within the government describe the centralisation of power in his office, with the Prime Minister's inner circle playing the role of his gatekeepers. Finally, the question remains, when will Canadians head to the polls? The central question will be whether Trudeau's image is so badly tarnished that the Liberal Party's vision of Canada will seem less appealing and less realistic than the vision offered by the parties to its right and left. As things stand, Trudeau's primary opponent is the Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. Scheer has vowed to roll back carbon taxes, oppose UN efforts to promote global cooperation on migration, and wants to move Canada's embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And that is an international issue that wraps up the significant holding. Ahead of a federal election in October, Trudeau's approval ratings have plunged from a high of 65% in 2016 to about 32% in July, leaving the odds of him ever becoming Prime Minister again looking vulnerable. But what the future holds for them? Well, you can see in our upcoming videos.